Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 132 of the Noclip podcast. We're all here. We're having a good time. It's Stunt Derby week around these parts. Stunt Derby, Stunt Derby, Stunt Derby. Say it into a mirror 3 times at nighttime, and a huge van appears behind you. How are you doing, gentlemen? Frank Howley, how are you? How's your Stunt Derby week going?
I'm the recovering from my Stunt Derby week. It's all medical appointments, and but I guess it's good news. I just had the X-rays like literally an hour ago, and it's the bone is filling in, it's healing, so
Wow.
I should be okay. But I still have to do physical therapy to get full range of motion back.
Okay.
So I can play Guitar Hero though. So we're getting there.
It's the most important thing. Absolutely. Were they freaked out that it was this weird sort of new material, adamantium, that was filling in your...
Yeah. Oh my God.
That was weird.
Sick. Yeah. There's mutant DNA X or whatever.
Yeah, they didn't like that. Jeremy, what's the weirdest material you've ever had inside of your body?
Probably a Guitar Hero controller. You know, long story. Long story.
Boy.
Also, I like the idea.
Those college dorms, eh?
It got a little crazy. I like the idea that Frank's doctor like pulled out a clipboard and was like, you know, it's going to be at least another 2 weeks until you can play Guitar Hero, I'm afraid. Like that was the metric. No, Doc, please. It's got to be another
Say
way.
it ain't so. Frank's mom is like crying outside in the waiting room.
He'll never play the
no.
Fire and the Flames on an expert difficulty again.
Oh yes, we have to wait another few weeks for Freebird. Oh my God. Yes, I'm glad you're doing well, Frank. Jeremy, you fucked up your back before, didn't you? You had a bad injury before, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I fell as a kid. I was snowboarding and fell on a rainbow rail, imagine a grind rail that goes in a big arc. And at the apex of the arc, I tried to pivot my grind, and instead I pivoted my spine.
Jesus!
And by that I mean I put a crack into it and immediately blacked out and woke up at the bottom of the snow park.
Oh my God!
And then I had to quit football, which was great because I hated football. So it was a really good. I was like, oh no, this is terrible.
Wow, that's all you have to do is almost break your back.
You have to
I guess
risk
break
paralysis.
your back.
Yeah, you have to break your back, but not bad enough that you can never use your legs again.
Wow, that's a real thin line you got to work on there to get out of football. There you go, all your great getting out of football hot tips here on the Noclip podcast. If you'd like to support this 100% free ad-free podcast, fund our documentaries, and get access to loads of bonuses, including this week a bonus podcast where myself and Alex Austin of Cryptic Sea, the developer of Stunt Derby, the two of us waxed lyrical for a good 75 minutes about what the past year of development on Stunt Derby has been like, what it's been like for him, what it's been like for me, what I've learned. Just the two of us chewing the fat. It's available right now. If you're a patron, you can go check it out. And if you want to get access to that and loads of other stuff, you can do so over at patreon.com/noclip. Massive thanks to all of our incredible Battle Pass holders: Richard Matheson, James Brown, Jason Drury, Mark Rojas, Ryan Cobb, Tucker Morgan, Crimson Cyclist, Sven Huster, Tim Robinson, Forrest Pruitt, Andy Fegan, Eric Hamilton Schneider, Cameron Ladd, Alex Goucher, George Dakotas, Jacob Godserve, and Tohir Tilyav. It was cool to see some of those names become a meme this week. There was a good meme with the Vince McMahon reacting more and more ridiculous meme, or reacting more and more energetically. And the 4 things were Tim Robinson, Forrest Pruitt. Oh no, it was Forrest Pruitt, Andy Fegan, Eric Hamilton Schneider, and then the one where he is going Super Saiyan was Cameron Ladd. So I thought that's pretty good. We have to get the rights to Cameron Ladd so we can put it on a t-shirt. We found out this week that in Stunt Derby you cannot put Beamer is actually a term that only last year BMW got the rights to.
Oh, so, really? That's patented by them now?
So it got patched, hot fix, about 30 minutes ago. That car is now called the Executive.
Oh, that's really good though. I like the Executive better.
Good.
That reminds me of like when in a Grand Theft Auto 3, you know, they have to rename it has to be evocative of the original title or whatever. So a Jaguar becomes like a Panther or whatever.
Yeah.
That's good.
Exactly, yeah. I like the Executive. It's quite evocative.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, it's got a ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got like a leather interior. It's like a sand colored exterior. I'm picturing like a very regal, like if Cadillac made an Oldsmobile.
Yeah, it's got electric seats.
Yeah,
and maybe they're heated.
Yeah,
you know, Maybe they got that package in there. The ones in Stunt Derby probably aren't heated. They don't even have rear seats, I don't think, most of them. But, they get you around the track. If you don't know what Stunt Derby is and you haven't been listening to me shite on about it for about a year, it's the video game that we have been developing with Alex Austin of Cryptic Sea fame. Alex, responsible for the original Bridge Builder game. It came out all those years ago and didn't make him any money and had to get taken down because somebody owned the rights to the term Bridge Builder, who actually released something after he did. And then a bunch of other indie developers slapped nice graphics on bridge building games and made a lot of money. And Alex was not that person. Polybridge and other such games. I'm not being reductive of the design of those games, but Alex very much the sort of he's always been on the bleeding edge of making really rad ideas around physics, and he's had some success in the past, but I feel like his best game or his biggest hit is yet to come, and perhaps that will be Stunt Derby. He worked on Gish with Edmund McMillan. Edmund's a good mate of his. He's been very nice promoting the game for us as well over the past couple of weeks. Thanks, Ed. Sub Rosa was his big game, which was kind of like his Tower of Babylon, kind of too big a game maybe. We talk a little bit about it on the podcast, Patreon pod. An entirely physics-based first-person shooter game that's also online and involves like striking deals and stuff. It's like a very esoteric, bizarre game with mad physics in it. And he's worked on a bunch of other games over the years as well. But yeah, Stunt Derby is available now. There's a demo as part of Steam Next Fest. Stunt Derby is part of Steam Next Fest. It's been cool seeing people hit the page and download it. I've been on Steam's back end, seeing who's downloading the game. I think we had like 5,000 people get the demo and maybe like 2,500 started it. It's kind of what apparently a lot of people hit demo and download a shitload of them, and then it takes them like the week to get through them all. So we're still waiting for some of those ones to come through. We got a couple of thousand more wish lists on there, which is pretty cool. We're going to share all this on Noclip Crew on the series we're doing over there. If you go to stuntderby.com, it'll bring you straight to the Steam page. You can download the demo. You can make tracks. You can race against bots. You can race yourself. You can play online with your friends. You can get 100 of your best friends to download the demo right now, and you can jump on a server and race against each other. I think the patch we just added in some usability stuff, like showing what the controls are in the game, which we didn't do for some reason because making games is hard and we forgot. I think dedicated servers are also in that as well, because people were asking for that. A lot of the Sub Rosa community has been coming over and being cool. A bunch of other hot fixes went in over the past 2 days. We're working hard on it. Demo's going to be up for a week, and we think we might leave it up for one extra week as well next week. Alex is also seeing if we can get a little Fall Guys mode in there as well. But it's been awesome. Thanks to everyone who's been sharing about it, and we have a bunch of really nice people were tweeting about it. Wario64 did a tweet for us, which is pretty cool. Devolver did one earlier today. They retweeted it out as well. So it's been really nice. Jeff Gersman's stream raided our stream earlier while I was making some levels. I made a level on the stream, and then I played the level online, and then 30 random people from the stream came and played the level that I designed on the stream.
That's
so
really cool.
That's a real Stunt Derby ass fucking stream time that's happening there. So yeah, Stunt Derby. Y'all have any questions about Stunt Derby?
I feel like I've played so much of it. I could field any questions about it.
You have.
Yeah,
that's true.
I don't know. I've had we've talked about it on the podcast a bunch, but I've had so much fun. The playtests for this game just have a very kind of, you've compared it to Counter-Strike 1.6, and it reminds me a lot of playing, like GoldenEye in the basement with my friends as a kid. It's just, I don't know. There's just something about it. It's very like sandboxy and chaotic and fun. And I don't know, the moment to moment of it is so fun and physicsy that even when you're losing, just like putting up a good fight or like turning heel at the end when you're not going to win and just trying to like get to the finish line and ruin other people's day. There's just a very kind of like even when I'm not winning, it feels like I'm participating in everyone having this kind of big sandbox fun together that is just very. It also kind of reminds me of old like Battlefield games or something where like going down with a fight is a lot of fun in Stunt Derby.
Yeah. And one of the things that's come up is people were like, "Oh, I've never played like a class-based racing game before," and that's kind of. remember we like stumbled into that. Like Alex was kind of like, oh, I guess that's what this is, because he was trying to figure out how do we add new vehicles in without breaking the dynamic that there is right now, where it's like hatchbacks, the executive, and vans. And they're being like sort of small, medium, and large kind of bears. And he was coming up with some idea that was like, oh, what if we have like a small, medium, and large cars, and then they come in sets. You know what I mean? So like it's vans, hatchbacks, and beamers, or it's like, you know, ambulances and hearses or whatever, like some other type of thing. And he was like, yeah, I guess it's like they're kind of classes in a weird way.
It's TF2. Like, it's Team Fortress with cars.
Right. Yeah. The heavy.
Yeah.
The van is the heavy. Yeah. It's wild. So yeah, it's been cool. People have been making their own levels. I jumped into a server yesterday and it was a bunch of people I played 3 levels with them and they were all new levels. And it was like a couple of hours after the demo came out. So it's been very cool watching people do it. We set up the dedicated servers because some people were like, there was a couple of Brazilian people who were playing who couldn't really fuck with the ones up here. Because, you know, people are hosting on their local machines, right? So you kind of get a bit of a lag spike there. 500 milliseconds between you and the server is maybe not fun. But the cool thing is all the physics is perfect. Everything is consistent. Server side or client side, even if there's a bit of a delay on the controls. So that's pretty neat for us, I think. So yeah, if you have any desire to play a racing game, go check it out. And if you don't and you want to support us, then download the demo, open it up, and wishlist it, because all those numbers go straight to a publisher once this whole Next Fest is over and we get to negotiate a little bit harder than we have been already. So that would be a massive, massive help. We have some video games to talk about this week. Next Fest only just started, so we don't really have any recommendations on that side of things, I don't think. There's been a couple of games that I've saved, and I'm going to stick on a Steam Deck as I go. I'm actually filming in Los Angeles tomorrow and Thursday for a project people will not hear about for maybe 5 years. It's a long tail ass Noclip project, but a bunch of the devs are together, so I want to grab them all while they're there. So I'll be off the grid for 2 days, and then I'll be back on Friday to work on more Vampire Survivors stuff and stream some Stunt Derby. But in the meantime, we have some other games to talk about. I want to start with the least prescient, least modern game on this list, because whenever there's a chance to talk about the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, you gotta take it. Jeremy, what's going on?
So as anyone who's been listening to the pod knows, I've been kind of investigating the Elder Scrolls series. The only Elder Scrolls game that I had played prior to the last year or so was Skyrim, which I know is kind of blasphemous if you're a hardcore old school Daggerfall head listening to this. You're cursing my name. But holy shit, Oblivion is really, really good. I started it like the end of last week. I think I fired it up while I was working on the Earthbound video and just was like, oh, I just want to, make my characters kind of like fun to just tinker a little bit. And then once you kind of set foot in the door, then you're like, oh, maybe I'll come back to Oblivion tomorrow or tonight or whatever. And for whatever reason, it just grabbed me. Like it's fantastic. I don't know. Something clicked with me getting into more, like sandbox RPGs, stuff that's very, very sandboxy, like Kenshi and stuff. Kind of like planted a seed for me of wanting to see more games like that. And I guess I've played a lot of Bethesda games, but it never really clicked for me that I started watching the Oblivion documentary that came out a while ago. And one of the things Todd Howard says about it is that the Elder Scrolls games are sort of 2 separate games linked together. They make a sandbox RPG world, and then they make a sort of story game. And the trick of the Elder Scrolls is placing the story game into this sandbox world. And I don't know, I guess I never realized, like, that's what they're trying to do, is make a game where you spawn in and they're like, you're the prisoner and now you're free. And then if you want, you can just go, like, be a thief, be a vampire thief hippie or whatever.
Oh my God, I've just realized all the quest lines that you maybe haven't done yet. Frank, have you played much Oblivion?
Yeah, that was like the 360 system seller for me. I remember like sitting with my friends on Skype in like 2005, 2006, and my friend Matt was like, yeah, you can shoot an arrow into a tree and the arrow will be there for the rest of your save. And I was like, what? What? Like Xbox has their own Zelda? Like, it sounded so cool. I didn't grow up as a PC gamer, but I got on 360. And yeah, I think I spent an entire month like getting every achievement, and that was... like, it blew me away. It was awesome. I've never revisited the series, but even the Oblivion Gates, everything about it was very badass.
Yeah, I remember that game being like, I think Lord of the Rings did a lot for making like mainstreaming fantasy in a way that was like all my friends were playing games like I'm not playing that shit fucking elves, fucking wizards and shit. I'm not, insert expletive here that I will not be repeated. It was very much looked down upon, that type of thing. And I think for many people, Oblivion was the first like fantasy game they ever played, because that was like, if you had a 360, like if you're a Morrowind player and you were like, maybe excited for that, but I think it was a way bigger deal on console because people were just so. Like, it definitely was a consolification of that type of game as well. Like they kind of imitated the blades a bit in the menu. Like you could do it all on the controller perfectly well. There wasn't like 1,000,001 different macros or weird keys, or like in Morrowind. And the menus they did a great job on the menus, I think, more than anything else, of just making it pretty easy to get through it. But yeah, that game, I think there might be a generational thing maybe as well. I don't know, because like a lot of that was like, I think I was 16 when that came out. So I was like primed for like, this is the Elder Scrolls one for me. And then Skyrim was as big as it was because of Oblivion, because Oblivion was this huge breakout hit. And then Skyrim was then with more resources, kind of, 100 people instead of 60 people or whatever worked on that one. So what have you been doing? So you met Jean-Luc Picard.
Yeah.
He got killed. You fought the rats.
Yeah.
You got out of you had basically the exact same intro as Fallout 3. You come out of a tunnel.
True.
And then you're looking at the world. What did you do?
Yeah. So despite the fact that you're a prisoner who's escaping from the city through the sewers, and they're like, go now, run, I immediately turned around and went back to the city, because it's like the biggest city. You can see it from 1,000,001 vistas.
Cyrodiil? Am I crazy?
Cyrodiil is the region. The city is it Tamriel? I think it's he's the
no, it does,
there's Tamriel, the realm.
Tamriel's the entire realm,
okay.
Like the whole thing.
There's so much geography going on.
Just
in
the
this
capital.
game.
I think of the map.
The Imperial City is what they call it. That's why the Imperial City is the capital city of Cyrodiil. Yeah, I don't think it has a name. The Imperial City is what they call it. I think that's why I'm confused.
And you mentioned the behind the scenes. I think it's literally on. I have the box here. I think it came packed with the game.
Oh, like on a DVD, or it's
that documentary was on a.
It's on the game disc.
No. It was in a separate DVD.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's fun to see also a bunch of faces that we would recognize from filming our Bethesda doc.
Right.
So it was funny to like go back in time and see a bunch of those folks. But yeah, I don't know. There's just like, so yeah, I went back into the Imperial City, just kind of started looking around, and I feel like that's crucial in an RPG, is to kind of get a sense of like what the shops have that you can't afford yet that you want. Right. Because my style of playing RPGs is very intrinsically motivated. Like for me, it's more about just you're going down the road and you're kind of like enjoying the sights and sounds, and something catches your curiosity, and then it's about following that curiosity and just finding things kind of emergent in the world. But there is a part of my brain that loves the intrinsic motivation of seeing the like $1,200 shocking touch spell, and then knowing every time I find like a little acorn to sell, I'm like, all right, we're a little bit closer to getting that cool spell.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I don't know. I probably I started at the end of last week. I've played at least like 17 hours since then.
Wow.
It's fantastic. Yeah, if I can, this isn't really spoilery because it's not even part of the main quest, but if I can spoil one side quest for over a decade old game.
Go for it. What is it?
I, as part of the main quest, ended up fighting some vampires, and I did not realize afterwards that I had a status ailment. Which has kind of an imprecise name. It was like hyponanoxia or some medical sounding stuff. So I figured it wasn't a big deal. I didn't go to my doctor or anything. And then I was riding down, like in a couple in-game days later, I was riding down the road and I noticed my horse had a weird kind of like purplish red glow around it. And I thought my game was bugged or something. I thought something had gone wrong. So I restarted the game, still was there. So I figured, okay, well, it's raining. Maybe my horse is like cold and it has a status debuff. Or maybe someone like cursed my horse. I don't know what's going on.
Right, yeah.
And so I went to the local tavern to kind of just like rest for a day until it wasn't raining. And I go inside and every single person in the tavern is glowing purple. And I was like, okay, either my game is perma broken or something has gone horribly wrong. So I start going through my status ailments and I have stage 1 vampirism. And so now I am on a quest to cure my vampirism, totally sidetracking me from the main quest. And And I kind of love that. I kind of love just
Awesome.
Yeah, just like those moments that make for really good anecdotes, I kind of feel like are the best parts of RPG design. The kind of things that I can say, like for a location design, for example, you want to be able to say, "Oh man, did you get to the castle with the gremlins? Did you get to the cave with the vampires? Like, did you see the thing with the thing?" And I feel like Oblivion, just every single place is interesting location. Go inside, interesting stuff in there. So yeah, I just feel like it's a game that is incredibly efficient and effective at instilling little bits of emergent narrative. It invites you to constantly self-mythologize the things you're doing in a really fun way.
Now I want to like go back and play. I'm rattling through all the different side quests. I remember the vampire stuff. Also, if you like slept outside overnight, sometimes it would happen as well.
Oh, really?
You'd wake up in the morning and it'd be like a little ding thing would pop up and say, "Oh well, got a little sore on your neck there," you know.
Jesus.
Have you what do you have to? Oh, I forget. So here's the thing. You also helped produce the. We both worked on the history of Bethesda documentary, and I forget how we did it. I feel like we split the games up or something.
Yeah.
I forget how we pieced them all together. Do you remember any of the quests that they talked about, that Emil in particular talked about?
No, I remember some of the Fallout stuff we talked about because it had more salience in my brain because it was about Boston.
Okay.
So even though I hadn't played Fallout 4 at the time, it was like Boston related. For whatever reason, I just memory dumped because I'd never played Oblivion, anything Oblivion related.
Okay. I'm just going to say 3 words. If you come across them, there's an organization within that world. If you come across it, the Dark Brotherhood, follow that path.
Okay, cool. I've heard that name. I haven't tracked them down yet.
It's like a lot of people, it's their like favorite like a side quest thing that happens in that game. It's awesome.
Okay, I will definitely seek them out.
And Emil worked on all that sort of stuff. I'm looking at the map here because I had the collector's edition here. It's like so cutely small in comparison to like what we're used to in modern open world games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Does it feel that way when you're playing? Does it feel like, oh, I don't have to walk for like 15 hours to get to the other side of this thing?
I think it does a really good job of the topology of the world is very good at segmenting your views. And so I feel like if you were standing on the Imperial City Tower in the middle of the world and you could see everything from the center, it would look like a little Disney World toy box. But because you're always seeing it from the path and there's like a mountain on your left and there's trees on your right and everything is kind of cleverly obfuscated, I feel like the world always feels much bigger than it is.
Frank, you think of some things you enjoy about Oblivion and we'll throw them at Jeremy. Actually, no, Frank, you go first. I can see you're kind of chomping at the bit.
Yeah, I mean, the number one thing is adoring fan.
I have not met the adoring
have you not
fan
seen him
yet.
yet?
I was kind of unaware of that figure. I've heard the name before, but when we talked about Starfield, Danny brought him up, and so he's been on my mind. Is that from the arena? Do I get him if I do the arena?
It must be an arena. I was just trying to think what triggers it. Is it when you complete the arena stuff? I can't remember. The arena stuff is great.
I've done it. That was the first thing I did in the Imperial City. Was I looked around at everything, and then I asked the guard like, "What are the landmarks here?" And he's like, "Well, you gotta check out the arena." And so the first night I played Oblivion, I literally just did the intro and then 3 hours of arena.
Oh, terrific!
Yeah.
I think the part of Oblivion that like pulls at my heartstrings more than anything is the soundtrack.
Oh, it's so unbelievably good.
Isn't it just beautiful?
Yeah.
It's just like it's all the like strings and female voices, like the choral stuff they have in there. Like at nighttime sometimes there's this like it's like this creepy ethereal like female choral line that runs through stuff, and it's so, oh my god, it just like melts my heart when I think about it. Like, and then all the stuff in like the, what are they called? The little temples you go into, you get all those little fucking glowing in the dark rocks. What are they called again?
I don't know if I've seen that yet. I've found like little shrines on the side of the road that you can pray to.
You haven't been in any dungeons yet? You haven't found any dungeons or anything?
No, I've been in a bunch of like cave dungeons,
skeletons and shit.
Are you talking about the soul stones or whatever?
Yeah. What's that stuff called again?
I found a bunch of those. I have to hunt them down for the vampire quest right now.
Okay, yeah. There's like, I forget the name. There's like a name for all those. But yeah, all the music, it's so good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And it's funny too because I've heard every single piece of music in Oblivion before outside of the context, and yet still coming back to it. I'll be riding my horse down the road at night, and it's just like, I don't know, the mood of the music is very it doesn't. It feels neither happy nor sad. It feels very like the type of music that would accompany mythical gods in a piece of fiction or something, where it's like, where like we transcend emotion. It's just this kind of like sublime feeling of awe.
Yeah, I feel like it's like awe is a good way of putting it, or it's like weirdly nostalgic or something, or very like timeless or something. Like it feels like you're connected to the gods or something. Isn't that no? Skyrim does the star map for your unlocks, isn't it? Yeah. Because I remember thinking that was a great way that they did that as well. Yeah, man. Now I want to go back and play Oblivion.
It's unbelievable. Go ahead, Frank. Sorry.
I was gonna say I pulled up my achievement list. I got all 1,000 gamer score, but I never touched the Shimmering Isles DLC.
Oh, nice. That's a lot of people's favorite ones.
So now I'm like, oh my god, there's an excuse to play Oblivion again. I can unlock these old achievements.
Yeah, the funny thing about playing Oblivion now is when you start it, since there's been, DLC for however long they supported the game after, as you're leaving the sewers after the whole Uriel Septim thing, it's like an uncle has passed, a door has opened, a man is a child has been killed, a ghoul has been found, like just a million little, like constantly.
So funny.
I was like, my phone was ringing off the hook in Oblivion. I'm like, all right, guys, chill out. I need to adjust a little bit.
All the weird
Oblivion.
stuff. Yeah, go on.
Oblivion was also famous for the infamous horse armor DLC.
Yes.
It was like the first marketplace item. It was like $2, and the internet like freaked out. And now times are so different where you can pay $25 for horse armor in Diablo 4. So
yeah, I got my armored horse right away. That was the first thing I did when I left the city. It's just, I don't know. There's something about the game, because the reason I wanted to play it is because I've been enjoying Morrowind a lot, and I know Oblivion is a lot of people's favorites, so I kind of wanted to I wanted to play the first 5 hours of both Morrowind and Oblivion and see which one I kind of wanted to commit to. But now that I'm so far into Oblivion, I feel like I'm just going to finish it and probably go finish Morrowind.
It's wild how, I think the amount of stuff that Oblivion did that was the first time, everyone's voiced. I don't think that was a thing in Morrowind. I don't think every character was voiced or anything. Am I crazy?
I think you're right. I think a lot of the side characters and stuff are just text in Morrowind.
There was no loading screens except for in and out of buildings, I guess, in Oblivion. But in the open world, it's all connected. God, it was, it just did so much. It was such a lovely world to just bounce around in. I remember just adventure was around every corner. It just felt so new. And I think also maybe there's a generational thing where it's the first time I played one of those games, because I played Morrowind later. I never actually touched Morrowind. I didn't, for whatever reason, those games weren't on my radar. I guess I didn't really have a PC much when I was a kid, so it was around the same time I had an Xbox 360, maybe 2 years either side. Yeah, what a fucking great game. I'm so glad we got to talk about Morrowind. Any closing thoughts on Oblivion, everyone?
I've just been enjoying the fuck out of it. I don't know. There's just something about it's I really loved Skyrim when I played it. It was kind of in an era when I was in college and I was playing fewer video games because I was, I was in a new social atmosphere, and the things I was interested in doing were kind of being a new person, meeting new people, and kind of figuring out who I was. And so the importance that gaming had as social glue in my high school years had kind of melted away. And then when I played Skyrim, I think I played Skyrim in Fallout 3 around the same time. It just ignited my brain and reminded me how much I loved video games. And as I'm playing Oblivion, despite the fact that I'm 15 years late to the party, I have no idea. I like it more than Skyrim. I think is Oblivion better than Skyrim?
This is a very so I prefer. God, it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
So Oblivion to me, in my soul, Oblivion is my favorite Elder Scrolls game.
Cool.
It is, but it's one of those Mario Kart is your, problems where the first Mario Kart you play is your favorite Mario Kart or whatever. I think Oblivion has a soul to it that Skyrim doesn't. I think Skyrim, by virtue of the fact that, Morrowind had its own look going for it, Oblivion was very safe in terms of the type of fantasy they went for. You know what I mean? It's very Central European, English, kind of white knights, Greek columns. It's very, it's very approachable in a way that I think Skyrim is clearly more, Norse inspired, and it has to be because it's the region of the world or whatever. And I think because they pulled in that direction, maybe it loses a little bit of the sort of sort of, I don't know, generic high fantasy thing, or because everything has to be a little bit, I mean, the music's amazing in Skyrim as well. And like, the stuff is great. I remember playing Skyrim and like there was so many like crazy improvements. I enjoyed it as a proxy to, or like as a comparison to Oblivion, because like stuff like the size of the giants and how they'd hit the bears and the bears would fly into the sky, or you'd fly into the sky. There was so much more. It was so much bigger. Like the map was crazy. Like when I went to Solitude for the first time in Skyrim, just being completely blown away. The fact you were fighting dragons. So like technically Skyrim was just like, oh my God, they made a crazy big leap past what Oblivion is in like a fairly short number of years. Like this is amazing. But I don't know. Oblivion just feels like home in a way that Skyrim never did for me. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's something about it. I don't know. It's just like, it feels very confident. Like I feel like every brush stroke of Oblivion feels like there's something unspeakable about it. When I was watching the documentary of the team, every meeting that they had where someone was showing off, like, they'd been working on, brought into the conference room, everyone gathered around and Todd watched them kind of show it off. It just seemed like, I don't know, like everyone was so confident in what they were doing and so excited about it, and it just felt like a bunch of footage of people hanging out who wanted to make cool shit and were like, look at this thing I did, and every single thing was like, oh, the lady has like a dog and the dog is annoying and she's reading, so she casts a paralysis spell on the dog to stop the dog from barking to bother her while she's reading, and you could just tell everyone in the room was like, oh, we're like pushing sandbox RPGs forward as a genre, and it was a mission that they really believed in. I'm sure Skyrim had a similar vibe in the production or whatever, but yeah, Oblivion just feels very, very special.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, there's parts of Skyrim that I'm now remembering, like quest lines and stuff that were like all the Mages Guild stuff in Skyrim was pretty incredible, and yeah, like there's definitely a lot of cool stuff, but yeah, I don't know what it is. It's like it's all. I wonder if it's like the difficult second album. Obviously it wasn't the second game, but Oblivion definitely feels like it was cribbing off of a lot of high fantasy tropes in a way that like the previous 3 games didn't, either because of technological reasons or because Morrowind was just such its own weird beast. That I wonder, were they really thinking about Lord of the Rings a lot? You know what I mean? When they made Oblivion, like, okay, we've got some touchstones here. We got our goblins. They're kind of like the orcs. We got our Bretons. I mean, they had their world, but like they could, I don't know, like maybe questions were easily answered. Like they all got in the room and they all knew what to do with that quest, because it was like, oh yeah, well that's what you do, because that's like the cool thing that makes sense. That's whereas in Skyrim maybe there was a bit more work having to be done to make it fit in the world of Skyrim. I have no idea.
One more thing about Oblivion that really stands out to me is somehow I was aware of the fact that Oblivion was the name of the game and referred to something in the game, but I didn't know specifically what. And the first time that one of the gates pops up and you go to Oblivion, I was blown away, like, because I didn't know that happened in this game. Like,
awesome.
in my preconception of Oblivion, it's a game where you're in this very green, hilly, mountainous, like Lord of the Rings Tolkien-esque fantasy zone, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh no, you got to like go to hell and shut the siege tower down. I was blown away. It was, I literally felt like the first time I played Half-Life and I was in the Zen levels for the first time.
Oh, cool.
Is how it felt. Just like transported to this world that I never would have guessed as part of this game. So. Yeah, I don't know. It's fantastic.
Hopefully a bit more fun to play than the Zen levels were the first time around.
It's definitely a lot more fun. Yeah, I don't know. The Oblivion levels are really cool. You feel like you're really like
they're hard.
You're detethered from the world. Like like I feel like if you die in there, no one's coming for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's if I die in here, do I get to load my game?
Yeah, it's like all my gear stuck in hell.
It feels super hardcore. I used to be like scared shitless when I went into the Oblivion gates, because it's so, everything in there wants to kill you. Like, and those dudes, like what are they called? The Draugrs, whatever. What are they called?
The Daedra?
The Daedra, man, the Daedra. Those dudes with their big fucking, I mean, they just look like Sauron, basically.
They're just like scary dudes. I love the fact that some of them, like if you come up to the guy who has a prisoner up there that tells you how to remove the sigil stone or whatever it is that shuts down the gate, if you go up to him and surprise him, he's like, you're not supposed to be here. Your flesh is now mine. Like, like he just as easily could have just run at you and started swinging, but the fact that it goes into the dialogue, like the classic Bethesda, like the focal length increases and zooms in on his face.
Oh yeah, the Bethesda zoom.
Yes, exactly.
Stop there.
Yeah.
You have to pay a fine.
You violated the law.
Exactly.
But the fact that they did that for just like a Daedra guard, I was like, oh my god, is this guy like a character? And then he instantly just goes to attack anyway. It was like, it feels like you're fighting the city guards, but in a city in Oblivion or something.
Dude, I am on the gamer.com thing of the top 15 quests in Oblivion, and I'm just scrolling through these going, yep, that was great. Yep, that was great. Yep, that was great. I think the writing and just like they just so many smart little quests in this game, like just weird shit like haunted houses and like orcs that needed to like have their confidence improved. Like there was just like a load of really sweet things in here. Man,
yeah,
good old Oblivion. Shout out to Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion.
The whole Elder Scrolls series has been like, we talked about, I played the first 5 hours of Daggerfall or whatever, and
right,
and it's just like the vision for those games to create these big sort of seamless sandbox worlds where you can just go do whatever you want is such an ambitious thing, especially like when they were making Daggerfall. And they just made this world that's like 150,000 square miles. I don't know. I'm just like, it has made me excited for Elder Scrolls 6 whenever it comes along in a way that I hadn't been until now, because I think for the first time it clicked for me that what the Elder Scrolls is a repository for sandbox RPG ideas, but transmuted towards sort of the like AAA, quad A idea of like telling these grandiose Hollywood-esque stories within one of those sandboxy worlds. So yeah, it's really cool. I have a new respect for that franchise after this year.
We should do a documentary on this game. Probably should. Just go back and do another one.
Hell yeah.
Just keep doing them. Oblivion, there you go, folks. Check it out now. Steam Next Fest. It's coming to early access in the next couple of years. There was somebody, remember Sky Oblivion? There's like a fan thing to remake Oblivion in Skyrim.
Yeah.
Sounds like they might want to hold off now and make it in Elder Scrolls 6.
I know. When I played Skyrim, I remember that project was already in the works. I can't remember if it was Sky Oblivion or the
Morrowind one.
The Morrowind one, yeah. But
yeah,
I remember
maybe
playing Skyrim and was like, whenever this project is done, maybe I'll finally play those games. And it's funny now that I'm playing Oblivion because I'm like, why did I wait? Like this game looks incredibly beautiful still. Like it holds up.
I think the secret way to enjoy that whole entire world of Tamriel is to play Elder Scrolls Online. Apparently, it's like feels good. Like
cool.
It's a good feeling. And when they did the Tamriel Unlimited thing about 5 years ago now, it's also like that's the thing as well. These games are Oblivion's like 17 years old.
Yeah,
like, that's pretty wild. Nuts. Dave the Diver is a game that I have not played ever since the news of this Titanic vessel has plagued my timeline. I have never not wanted to know any more about a news story than this news story. I either want them to these people to turn up again. Have you both avoided this, or do you know about this story? Have you guys managed to avoid this?
I know.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just
Frank,
through like passing Twitter headlines.
That's the thing. I'm
and
sure
it's like,
exactly.
I'm good.
You can't. You definitely have had like surface contact with it or something because everyone's like talking around it. But yeah, basically one of these like. So David Szymanski today was wondering why Iron Lung was going viral on Twitter. And the reason is that there is a 5-person craft. Now I'm part of the fucking problem. I'm doing it now. I'm sorry everyone who's listening. There is one of these crafts that goes down to see the Titanic wreck and it's gone missing.
That sucks.
So there's like 5 people in like a tiny tin can, and it has 90 hours of oxygen in it, and like people are scrambling to get down if they can. If they don't know where it is, they know where it's gone. It is the most horrible, haunting story I've ever heard, and I cannot avoid it. And now I am part of the problem, telling all these poor people who listen to our podcast about it. And you guys lived your entire week without listening to this shit, and now I'm doing it. I'm so sorry. So I don't know. Maybe they'll find them. Maybe they won't. But it's absolutely cosmic horror when I think about it for a second. So I was playing Dave the Diver up and absolutely loving it. We did a video on it in Noclip Crew last week. Played a shed load of it since, and there was somebody who said you've not even scratched the surface, no pun intended, and they were right. It has gotten better. It has gotten better and better and better. The story stuff I am now bought in on. The mechanical stuff, all like there's so much more going on with my little sushi restaurant. I'm diving for fish. I'm getting down there. I've got a whole weird quest line down there which involves impressing people that is very funny, and I'm just having a blast. I cannot recommend Dave the Diver anymore. It is a good time. Was it like $20?
That sounds right.
1999. I picked it up on Steam Deck and had one session with it, and like the music in it is really good.
It's great.
Too. So it feels cozy. So that's one of those games where I'm waiting for like the right time to just sit and chill out with. But I really like it.
Yeah,
I didn't know
I'm enjoying On Deck.
I think is it all Korean developers? I remember seeing like the opening titles like.
Yeah, so the company that's producing it is wholly owned by Nexon. So it's as far as I know, it's like I think Nexon are releasing indie games under a separate label is kind of the vibe I got from it, because I don't think they've released anything yet, but when I looked it up, it looks like the company's owned by Nexon. So that's what which is also interesting if that is the case. I may be wrong here, but that is also interesting if you have, because it's like that happens a lot in film production, right? You got like Universal will have like indie labels that they're launching movies under. I forget the exact ones, but that's an interesting sort of thing. As part of Next Fest, for instance, it's 99% indie games, but like that Lies of P game is part of Next Fest, which I was.
Oh yeah, who made that? I don't know anything about that game.
Yeah, the Pinocchio Elder Scrolls, Pinocchio Bloodborne. Yeah, so that was a bit weird seeing it in there as well.
Cool.
But that's kind of the world we're living in now. There's AAA games are kind of not bringing it for a lot of people, and indie games are getting more interesting, and some of them are getting bigger budget. I mean, Lies of P is not that necessarily, but like, I mean, we talk a lot about these games on this podcast, and it's not because we're trying to fill a gap and talk about indie games, it's because that's what we're fucking playing, because that's where the interesting shit is.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talk about a lot, like, just the like economies of scale of making video games, that when you have a huge business and there's 300 people working on a big game, it not only has to be huge, and it not only has to be, like, technologically pushing the envelope forward, it also just, it's like an investment for them, so it kind of has to be safe by some metric. Like, it has to take risks in the sense that it has to be new and innovative. It has to feel like a new type of video game, or like
some maybe.
Yeah. Well,
maybe not. Call of Duty doesn't,
That's true. That's a good point. But I guess like the counter to that, I guess, would say is that they pivoted into doing BR because BR was the new thing. It's not like they just continued
like trends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It just has to do something marginally different than the last time. But you don't see, like Guerrilla isn't making like a Nobi Boy style, like, you know what I mean? Like Hida Takahashi style games. So I would,
or like, even if you look at like games like look at Ubisoft, who are making literally, like, they used to be innovative.
Yeah.
In that they were like, hey, let's do a first person RPG style game where you're on an island and you get to, with Far Cry or Far Cry 2, I mean, Far Cry 2 was crazy innovative, Far Cry 3, Far Cry 4, and then you can see the innovation curve flatline. You know what I mean? You go through all the Far Cries. And the same with Assassin's Creed, where it's like they were at one stage, because they were breaking into this new genre, super innovative, but dude, I don't know how any of those games are now. But I hear what you're saying. Like, the live services bubble we've just lived through was a total clusterfuck.
Yeah. I feel like people are scrambling. I mean, I would love to see, in my mind, I know very little about the business side of video games other than what I gathered from people we interview. But it seems to me, as a total layman, that diversifying and having, like however many people on a team that constitutes 5 teams the size of one giant AAA team, and then having each one of those do something slightly more adventurous. I feel like the numbers might balance out at some point, maybe. If 3 of the 5 are really, really good, then it's not like you took a huge risk and put 300 people's livelihood on the line to make like a bizarre experimental art game or whatever, So.
Yeah, and that's kind of what the model was 15, 20 years ago, because you had like publishers who owned multiple studios. So if you took like, I don't know, Bethesda, they're on the what we're talking about at the moment. Bethesda GameWorks owns like, Bethesda Game Studios. So that's like 100 people working on Skyrim. They have, I'm not sure who they had at that stage. I don't think they'd, but like, for instance, when the people had id and Arcane and Machine Games and all these like smaller teams working all this sort of stuff. But there's something that happens because they were private. But there's something I feel like a lot of this has happened in either the VC space or in publicly owned companies, where there is this rush to have like perceived value. Like, perceived value is so much more worthwhile at like that level of like business than actual revenue, like, because you've companies like DoorDash and Uber and whoever who don't make a shit money. They don't make any money, but their perceived value is so huge because they own so much of the market. So then I feel like games were kind of doing something similar, where it didn't really matter if the games were making money hand over fist, as long as they had a huge chunk of the existing available market of people buying their games, because then, especially as a publicly owned company, you know, that's where your stock goes up. And yeah, it's just led to just a fucking, I don't know, mate. And I have to I worry about this. It makes me feel better when I hear you say this, because I do worry that I'm just like, I'm becoming an old person.
No, I worry about the same thing. I mean, you know, I've did a video over the last week about Earthbound, and in preparation for doing the video, I replayed the entirety of Earthbound. And, you know, there's obviously a fear when you revisit a game. You know, over the course of my 32 years of life, the amount of times I've said to someone that Earthbound is one of the top 5 games ever made is such that if I went back and replayed it as a 32-year-old man and it sucked, I'd have to like write letters. It would be like Alcoholics Anonymous, where you have to track down all the people you wronged. I'd have to like reach out to everyone I lied to about Earthbound. But it's fucking great. I don't know. I think the writing of Earthbound is better than so many games that I've played in the last 5 years that are new games. And that's not like, it's not a tech thing. It's not like a video games are moving forward or backward thing. It's just like, you know, I mean, writing has been around sufficiently long that it's not like 20 years of progress in the field of writing is making it better or worse. You know what I mean? It's just good writing. It's timeless. So
we're going to do, how about we'll just do a little bit of a thought experiment here, okay?
Okay.
Because the rate of change is the thing that I think, referring to here. So, Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, 2002. 4 years later, Oblivion comes out.
Ooh.
I know, that's a real...
That hurts already.
That hurts already. When was that? So that was 2006. 5 years later, Skyrim comes out. Okay, 4 years and 5 years. Let's look at Assassin's Creed, the most recent ones. And this is not a knock on Assassin's Creed. I like Assassin's Creed games just fine. I'm just using them as a good vantage point of a large IP that exists in the current space. So the 4 year gap would be the equivalent of Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which was the London one, wasn't it? I think, where you had the sister and the brother. That came out in 2005. 2020, so that's 5 years, was Assassin's Creed Origins. And Valhalla. Did they both come out the same year? That seems crazy. Oh, no. 2017, that came out. So the difference between the 5 year gap between Syndicate and Valhalla. So there's a technological jump there, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's not Morrowind to Oblivion or Oblivion to Skyrim. I wonder, like, maybe Far Cry is if we're going down the first person...
Yeah.
Sort of.
Before you do Far Cry, I think that a huge part of the problem is this sort of like graphics progression plateau. Like I think from the mid 90s to the mid 2000s, like even just like 95 to 2000, over the 5 years there, like if you look at the technological progression, not even just from 2D sprite art to 3D, but the rapid progression of 3D once it became popularized and mainstream and everyone was making 3D games, I think it tricked people in the games industry and in like the consumer base into thinking that was the rate of fidelity change that they could then expect moving forward. And so I remember, you know, when those leaps were happening, or like when the Resident Evil remake came out on GameCube, it was like not even that many years after the original, and people were like, oh my god, this is setting the pace. Now in another 5 years, imagine, you know, everything's gonna be photorealistic or whatever.
Right.
And
by the time we're like 30, it's gonna be like real life.
Yeah, you won't be able to tell when you're playing a game. I just think that like I think everyone got deceived that was not just a kind of like one-off quantum leap forward in technological progress because we just hit a point where it was bound to happen or whatever. And I just think like now we're plateauing. I feel like we need to pivot away from the idea that graphical fidelity is like the most important vector to progress forward or whatever.
Funnily enough, though, I think all that graphical stuff was happening, and at the same time as shitloads of like gameplay stuff was also happening. Of course, yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, because that's the issue that I have, is that like, yes, we have like 4K'd the industry, which has meant development times of costs have skyrocketed and time has skyrocketed, but also just in terms of like, there's been a consolidation in just like in terms of what games are and what genres are. And I think most of this, I don't know, I think a lot of this has to do with like this sort of wider global economy and how big gaming has gotten, and the fact that like the hardcore group, which used to be the group you had to appeal to and innovate with, is now smaller and smaller and smaller. And you have this really, because like you ask, like, why do people like Avatar? Like, hey, Frank, sorry, I forgot you were here. Frank loves Avatar, right? A lot of people like Avatar. Avatar's the biggest fucking thing in the world, right? Frank is the only person in the world I know who loves Avatar, right? But people do somewhere. They're around. They're fucking everywhere. I just don't know them because I'm not in those circles or whatever. And it's the same thing with these games that, like, especially crowds like Ubisoft make, is that these huge mainstream audiences that exist outside of Reddit and Twitter and, you know, who go into game shops and they download 3 games a year and they play these games and they're absolutely massive and they're more than happy just to buy a couple of games a year. And that used to just be the realm of Madden and Call of Duty, and now I think there's a couple of these games that exist, and then you have the younger audience that just plays one game forever. That's what I worry about. I worry that, like, we've now created like an economy within games where people are buying fewer and fewer games on the older side and on the younger side, and then you have this, like, where the hardcore group will buy, like, you know, 40 games a year, like including indie games that cost like $5, right? Like, you buy a lot of games every year, buy 10 games a year, even buy 20 games a year, and like, I wonder if there's a bubble that's gonna happen here somewhere where there's just too many games being made for too much and nobody's buying them except the mainstream, and then the mainstream gets bored because that's what happens sometimes. And then the music industry is a good example where it all fucking implodes and there's no passion for it anymore. There's nothing driving people to that anymore. They can just listen to it in the background. They don't have that. The lifestyle of being into music just fucking totally evaporates out of global society in a way that freaks everyone out. You know, movies have continued to do all right, but a lot of that's changing too into television. So I worry, like, some of this stuff was that there's like a fucking there's a reckoning coming with some of this stuff.
Yeah, I've seen people talking about that with superhero movies or with mainstream cinema at the moment. Some of the, like, big, I mean, you know, people are always predicting, prophesizing the downfall of the current
that's true
paradigm or whatever. But you know, like, I think it was like the new Ant-Man and like the Shazam sequel or something saw devastatingly poor turnout and low sales figures. And yeah, the thing that sucks about it is when those big titans start to crumble, it obviously can be the thing that is like it is the prerequisite for change to happen sometimes, for those big things to crumble, because then the people with all the money go looking for the next big thing, which, you know, despite being a very sort of crass business impulse, can lead to innovation, because they're like looking for something to throw money at, which is a good opportunity for creative people to be like, I have an idea, the next big thing is my thing. But it does suck because then, you know, like, obviously there are human beings whose livelihood depends on doing very good work, you know, like VFX artists or whatever. Like, the VFX industry is, if superhero movies dissolve and, like, that paradigm dies, I can't imagine how many people's livelihoods are going to be, like, devastated or, like, insecure or whatever. So change is it's fun to, like, speculate, like, I want every big movie to, like, crash and burn and start this new thing, but it's like, I don't want all those talented people's lives to just, like, dry up.
Yeah, it's weird. I feel like the movie industry is so cyclical. Like, it goes through a big shift, or like TV does as well. I think we talked about this a couple of months back. And we've never seen that in games, I don't think, outside of what you were saying earlier, like the technological sort of innovations that force the change. And we were really lucky that we grew up during, like, I mean, I wasn't playing games in the 80s, but like during the 90s until, you know, Skyrim at least, or Minecraft, there was like non-stop innovation, you know what I mean? Like, pretty much, like, it dulled out a little bit maybe at the end of the 360 era, but there was so much, it was so different. The industry looked so different every couple of years. Like, the gap between Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2. Like, I was a huge Half-Life fan, and then there was a sequel to Half-Life coming out called Half-Life 2, and that game looked like it came from a different fucking planet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is the second one of these games, and now we're just, like, picking up objects and throwing them at people, and they're, like, realistically getting hit. Like, and I think maybe that is lost on a new generation of players, that they didn't realize how gnarly and insane the rate of progress was in games for so long until fairly recently, and now we're fighting over resolution and frame rates, and it's like, who fucking cares, actually? Like, here I am complaining about Starfield not being 60 frames a second, and it's like, yeah, well, will it be interesting?
Yeah, I don't care if it's 5 frames a second, if it gives me, like, a truly unique and interesting and innovative and compelling experience. And also just, like, like the thing we talked about last week with Starfield on the podcast was like, does it have heart? Are these places, no matter how well they're rendered, no matter how high the fidelity is, are the places that you've created places that are worth going? Are the characters in these worlds people that are worth meeting? People that if they're the difference between a fetch quest and a meaningful emergent narrative is, do I give a shit about the person who's asking me to kill 5 rats?
Right, exactly. Will we be talking about Starfield on this podcast in 16 years' time about how much it grabbed our souls? And will the fact that it ran at 30 frames a second, the same frame rate Oblivion runs on Xbox 360, be a problem or not? Fuck. All right. That would wrap up a podcast very nicely, but I do want to talk to Frank about the game that he brought today as well. BattleBit Remastered. This is a game that Jeremy was shouting about months ago.
Oh, yeah.
Just like AI art a couple of months before that all blew up. Jeremy Jane is on the bleeding edge of new shit that's going to fuck us up. BattleBit Remastered has blown up on Steam. It was like one of the highest played games on Steam last week when I guess it hasn't even come out of early access. Do we know why it suddenly popped? Was there like a patch or something?
June 15th
I think
was the release.
So I think it's finally like out in early access. Was it only like a beta that Jeremy played?
It was
before?
close. So when I was playing it
Yeah.
a few months ago, you had to wait every week for a slot when they were testing the servers.
Wow.
So now it's properly
Holy
out as
shit.
of 5 days ago, as of time of recording.
You were like buying drugs at a place that you need to like turn up at the coordinates.
I
and
went
it
to
changes
jail
every
for
week.
weed, and you guys are like buying it at the dispensary.
Exactly, yeah. You should amnesty your charges for the work done for BattleBit Remastered. So this is if you forget, this is the low poly, like Battlefield style, 254 for some reason player, game, destructible maps, Minecraft meets Battlefield. Frank, you didn't play it when Jeremy played it back in the day, right? Or back in the day, like whatever, 6 months ago. Have you been finding it? People are losing their mind over this game.
It's awesome. Like, we were just talking about like AAA staling out and people going towards indies. Like, this is it. Like, I was burned so hard by Battlefield 2069 or whatever the hell that was. Like, whatever. Even Modern Warfare 2 was fun, but it got tired. This is so fun. It's Battlefield 2, but everything looks like Roblox. But an extra feature that makes it so fun is there's proximity voice chat.
Okay.
So, but what's great is like when you log into the game, there's like 4 separate like flash screens that's like, hey, if you're toxic or if you're do anything naughty, we're gonna ban you. And then you join the match. Hey, we're serious. If you fuck around in voice chat, we'll ban you. So as a result, like, people are chill and friendly and people are role playing. So like you're running around the battlefield and there's all these like little Lego people crawling out for medics and everyone's voice acting like, medic, help me. Like, it is so like the juxtaposition of like there's the gunplay feels good. There's vehicles crashing, there's demolition, and then like these tiny little Roblox, like people running around shooting guns, and it's like, this is so crazy and it works. like it's not laggy. Yeah, it's 128. I was playing yesterday with a full squad of 8 people with 8 friends. It is so silly. It is so funny. And it took me like maybe 30 minutes to get a grapple on the controls. You can rebind, but I've been playing medic, and so I'm just constantly reviving people, and it's great. It has those Battlefield moments. I really, really like it, and I'm very, very surprised by it because it's like, this seems like such a gimmick, but it works. I'm eager to, like, tonight I'm going to be playing more of this. Like, I'm so excited to play more of it, but it rocks, and it's only $15.
$15, man. How about that? That's great. That's the same sort of idea we have at Stunt Derby, whereas if it's a multiplayer game but people are going to play with their mates, then maybe don't price it super, super high because you're going to get multiple people to play it. I got to check this thing out. I mean, when Jeremy talked about it months ago, I was like, I definitely want to play this whenever it comes out. It sounds super interesting. Can you, like, if like the 3 of us jumped in a game, is there a way to stick together like that way, squad size wise?
Yes. So it's just like Battlefield. You can, like, when you open up the game, you're in the main menu. You can form your party through your Steam friends list, and then you can queue into a server. You can do it by like 128 versus 128, 64 by 64, 32 by 32.
Oh, cool.
And then when you're in the squad, you can always, like, as long as you aren't in combat, you can spawn on your squad. Cool. And then just like Battlefield, when you start, you're at your like base, you can get into a vehicle, helicopter, whatever. So it's pretty easy to start as a group and then spawn on your group or whatever.
Excellent. BattleBit Remastered, still a very confusing name.
It is a confusing name. Yeah,
it is.
It's kind of like calling something. It's like when they made Troll 2, and it was like the first movie or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
BattleBit is really cool. What it reminds me of is before BattleBit existed, I had talked to some friends about how it would be interesting if small indie teams kind of took up the mantle of these genres that were seen as like the core kind of games that AAA would handle, like like the Battlefields and Call of Duties and stuff. And if someone just took up what was interesting about those games or those genres in like 2004 that they had kind of drifted away from because of like market demand and keeping up with graphical fidelity and all these things that change the nature of the beast over time. And I feel like BattleBit really is kind of like it feels like a Battlefield game. And what it reminds me of is there's a guy in Berkeley. I've never been to one of these, but there's a guy in Berkeley who is or in Oakland, who is a chef at a Michelin star restaurant in Berkeley.
Okay.
So like the kind of place you go and it's $400 and it's a fixed menu, right? So this guy's he's not like the head chef that makes the menu. He's like one of the line chefs there. But what he does is he does a private event in his backyard in Oakland for $70 a head. And it's basically it's the DIY punk show equivalent of a Michelin star dinner.
Right.
So you go and it's outside at a super long table and they serve you Michelin star food, but there's no the wait staff is like this one guy who cooks it and his friend, and they just do weird shit with it. And so it's kind of like a deconstruction of the experience of a Michelin star dinner for people who don't want to pay 5 times as much for it. And I don't know, I like that idea of people being like, listen, all right, it's not going to look like Battlefield and it's going to be like a little janky, a little rough around the edges, but if what you're after is like the core, the meal itself, like if you're appreciating the cuisine and not like the ambiance and the candlelight and the tablecloth and stuff, I feel like there's like a different mode of doing like a DIY punk version of these things that seem unattainable. So I feel like BattleBit's a good example of that.
It's not going to look like Forza, but it's going to feel good to drive the cars, and there's going to be Jenga towers you can knock over, and you should check it out right now.
Yes, filet mignon in a back alley is how I would describe it.
Yeah, I got to check this thing out. It's funny how EA couldn't make this. You know what I mean? Maybe DICE could have before they were, well, I forget when that buyout even happened. That's probably 15 years ago at this stage. But it is funny as well, like the destructibility stuff that like Battlefield 4, was it? The Levolution? Was that 3? I can't remember. Maybe.
Bad Company 2?
Oh, I guess, actually, you're right. Sorry,
true.
Bad Company was the one who did all that. Yeah. It's funny how that's kind of come back, not just in games like this, but also in like the finals, which is a game Embark is a bunch of ex-DICE people as well. Like clearly people thought that there was something in this destructibility stuff, but like they just lost their way at DICE or something, or I don't know, or like you said, Jeremy, there's probably some economic market reasons, forces that were pulling them in a certain direction at that scale or whatever.
Yeah.
BattleBit Remastered. There you go. There's a podcast, folks. BattleBit Remastered, Dave the Diver, and Oblivion. Pick your one game you're allowed to play for the week. Man, that's a tough one. They're real good.
I'm going Oblivion.
Yeah, I might go BattleBit.
BattleBit is really, really fun. We should definitely. I would love to do like a crew video where we squad up and just play it.
Yeah, that'd be rad. Speaking of crew videos, we're gonna have Jeremy talking about Earthbound hitting the channel pretty soon. A new little feature we're putting out, kind of like Noclip's Hall of Fame, basically looking back at old games and seeing how rad they are these days.
I redid the outro today, which nobody has seen in this call because I sent it 2 minutes before we started recording. There's a new outro. I just want a little teaser here. I've added some footage of the Noclip Hall of Fame while I talk about its physical location in the outro.
Oh, okay.
And I used footage of the Library of Congress.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. That's true, yeah. So, I'm sure that's one of those.
And the shot of the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark when they're wheeling the crate into the big warehouse full of crates. So that is the canonical inside of the Noclip Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame, I love it. That's great. You can check that out if you want to check out on the main channel the video that Frank did with the Completionist all about the mix event that had to be rescheduled by everyone over there. Great work on that, Frank. People loved it. cool to see that. You can check that out in the main channel. I also have a trailer for Stunt Derby, which I'm going to take down in like a week's time. It's just going up just to let people know that the demo's available. The Patreon podcast with myself and Alex is up now as well. And then Vampire Survivors, I was filming in my house last night for a bunch for that one. Got some great work done on it. That and basically next week, my plan next week is to finish that and to finish Immortality, because they are both basically finished, and Jeremy did a great job on Immortality and Jesse did a great job on Vampire Survivors. He handed it off so long ago I had to think about it for a second. That's how long I've been trimming away on it. Jesse's also working on a Patreon exclusive podcast series that we've been talking about for a while. I think I've mentioned it on this. We're doing a series that is basically, like, we don't have a name for it yet, but the concept is something like, so you want to work in video games, and each episode is about a specific job role in video games. We have recorded most of the first episode. It's about production. It's about being a producer in video games. We talk to several people who work in production. We detail what the work is like, what type of person might excel in this job, what the pay is like, what the, career progression is like, how do you get into it, how do you get out of it, what you can do in academia to maybe help you get into it or not. And the idea is that this podcast series is like a 101 on, a menu almost on like what are the different jobs that are in games, designers, combat designers, engineers, concept artists, tech art, like going the whole shebang, just going job by job and trying to figure out what types of positions there are, basically to help people figure out if they can break into games, because we think there's loads of jobs in games people don't realize that they could be qualified for, and if we can point more people in the right direction, that'll be awesome. So we're going to do it as a Patreon exclusive series, going to launch Patreon exclusive, and it will eventually be public. We think what we'll do is when we're doing the second season of it, if the first season does well, when the second season is either in production or about to come out, we'll launch the first season publicly, and that's kind of the idea behind that. But yeah, keep your ears out for that one too. If you'd like to support all the work we do, please head over to patreon.com/Noclip. The tape stuff will happen soon as well. The tapes are still happening. First week of June, I think, at this stage. Stunt Derby kind of just took up a lot of space. And that's it. Frank, what are you doing for the rest of your week?
Let's see. Well, Final Fantasy 16 drops this weekend.
Oh, it does.
So I'm going. I haven't seen any trailers or anything. I know, I think the marketing for it's been edgier. It's not less cute, but I don't know. It's Final Fantasy. I feel like it's going to be quirky either way.
The demo was super popular, it sounds like.
Yeah.
People are very excited since that demo came out. Combat looks interesting. Maybe a little bit different. I won't say anything else. They're all naked, Frank, all the time. They've gone for a real artistic vision on this one. Jeremy, what about you for the rest of your week?
I've been working on my sandbox RPG prototype, and I have a functioning economy, but there's only one commodity type, and it's the one crop that farmers can grow. So there's massive devaluation of placeholder crop one. So I'm going to need to invent some new things to sell so the economy doesn't ruin itself.
Fantastic. Look forward to hearing more about that one. Thank you all for listening to the podcast. Have a great week. Go download Stunt Derby. Wishlist it. Bye.